Welcome to Ancient Military History, a channel dedicated to providing visual representation of how ancient militaries operated and waged war, going into detail about the real tactics they used to win battles, and showing you, the viewer, how this would have looked in ancient times. In this video, we will be describing the tactics used in the Battle of the Trebia that took place in 218 BC between the Romans, led by Tiberius Sempronius Longus, and the Carthaginians, led by Hannibal Barca. The Trebia was the first major battle of the Second Punic War, and the first major victory for the young Carthaginian general. Before this battle, Hannibal and his men had infamously crossed the Alps that separated Spain and Italy. He had entered the unforgiving mountain range with about 60,000 men and 37 war elephants, but they just barely endured the arduous trek, and they were reduced to a size of about 26,000 and just a handful of elephants left. However, Hannibal was far from demoralized. As he entered northern Italy, Hannibal met with the Gallic tribes, who were bound to Rome by treaty, and he offered them peace by formal alliance, and executed any who opposed. His newfound allies increased his forces to about 90,000 men, and after a small battle at the Ticinus River, an additional 2,200 Gauls had defected from the Roman side and joined Hannibal as well. The Roman general Scipio was wounded at the skirmish at the Ticinus River, so Rome had to send reinforcements. A less competent Tiberius Sempronius Longus arrived with every aspiration to win glory against the Carthaginian general. Using information from his spies, Hannibal correctly gauged the rash character of Sempronius, deducing that he could most likely be provoked into battle at a time and place of Hannibal's choosing. Sempronius was a military appointee without much military experience, but with all the eagerness to engage the Carthaginians. He managed to march his army from Rome to northern Italy in just 40 days, which was an impressive feat at the time. And although the Roman army in this day was typically comprised of young and inexperienced soldiers who were raised on an annual basis, very few ambitious Roman commanders would have refused battle against a smaller army. Much to the veteran Scipio's dismay, Sempronius could easily be provoked into confrontation. The stage was set, and Hannibal put his plan into motion. He took full advantage of the field, the harsh elements of winter, and the Romans' thirsty pursuit of glory. And so, on the eve of the winter solstice, the Battle of the Trebia began. Early in the morning, Hannibal had his men grease themselves with fat to insulate against the bitter cold. He then concealed his brother Mago and his elite force of 2,000 cavalry and infantry in the thick brush of a gully along the banks of the Trebia River, and he arranged the rest of his forces on a flat, treeless plain across the Trebia which divided the two camps. He then sent a contingent of Numidian cavalry across the freezing river to attack the Romans with both javelins and personal insults. Against Scipio's wishes to wait for winter to pass, Sempronius, not even allowing his men to have their morning meal, quickly assembled his forces to respond to the Carthaginian taunt. He dispatched his army in full force across the Trebia and in pursuit of the mocking cavalry. While the mounted Numidians crossed the river with ease, the Roman foot soldiers, equipped with heavy armor, waded through the ice-cold river in water that at times reached as high as their chests. One historian suggests that it would have taken hours for the entire army to reach the opposite side of the river. Tired, hungry, soaked, and shivering under a blanket of snow, the Romans then faced an uphill battle, as they had to climb the sloping banks of the river. They were so chilled that they could scarcely hold their weapons. Hannibal could have slaughtered the Romans at the banks of the river, but he allowed the Romans to advance because his goal wasn't necessarily to beat the Romans, but to also raise the morale of his newly acquired allies by providing them with a more devastating victory. As the Romans marched upward, many soldiers fell to stones, hurled by Hannibal's slingers, and their light infantry, who had expended their missiles at the Numidian cavalry, had to fall back through the heavy infantry lines. Sempronius commanded a force of about 40,000 men, and Hannibal, despite amassing a force of about 90,000, commanded only 30,000 troops in this battle, and he kept his remaining forces in reserve. Hannibal placed his war elephants on the wings, in front of his remaining cavalry and opposite the Roman cavalry. As Sempronius and his men finally reached the battlefield, the Roman horses were so frightened by the foreign animals that they immediately fled and rendered the cavalry completely useless and the infantry fully exposed. The Carthaginian cavalry and elephants then began to close in on the now vulnerable Roman flanks. However, Sempronius continued to push forward towards the Carthaginian center, as was usual for Roman warfare, a faulty tactic that Hannibal kept in mind and later used to his advantage in a subsequent battle. As the Romans continued their march and passed the ambush forces, Mago and his men emerged from the banks, attacked the Roman rear, and sent the army into disarray. Demoralized by fatigue, hunger, and impending hypothermia, some of the overwhelmed Romans attempted to retreat through the Trebia River, only to be slaughtered by Hannibal's men or drowned. The remaining forces, who were completely surrounded by the Carthaginians, had no choice but to press forward and to try to pass through the opposing line. Out of the 40,000 men who marched into this battle, fewer than 10,000 reached the other side and escaped to the nearby town of Placentia, where they remained in camp, as Scipio had originally suggested, until spring. The Romans suffered about 32,000 killed, wounded, or captured, while the Carthaginian losses were around 4,000 to 5,000 men, and unfortunately, most of his elephants. This victory, won with carefully planned strategy and tactics, showed the Celts of northern Italy that Rome could be beaten, and therefore swayed them to Hannibal's side. Furthermore, this battle was a crucial display of Roman weakness, which the Carthaginian general used to his advantage in his most famous victory, the Battle of Cannae. In the face of their greatest adversary, the young republic had much to learn before it would become the great Roman Empire as we know it today. Thank you for watching Ancient Military History, your go-to resource for the strategies and tactics used by ancient militaries throughout history to conquer their foes. We are a brand new channel, and your support would mean the world to us. So, if you liked this video and would like to see more, please subscribe and leave in the comments which ancient military battle you'd like to see next. Until next time, thank you and have a wonderful day.